A series of bombings has ripped through Iraq, killing at least 66 people. Such coordinated attacks have become the hallmark of the country's Al Qaeda cell. Its bloody efforts to undermine the authority of the Iraqi government have already made this year the deadliest in the country since 2008. Well, let's look now at the roots of the crisis. From 1996 to 2001, Al Qaeda was based in Afghanistan, where it enjoyed the protection of the Taliban and was also present in Pakistan. Its expansion gathered steam after Washington launched its war on terror in response to the 9/11 attacks. The U.S. invasion of Iraq prompted radical Islamists there to declare their allegiance to Osama bin Laden's network in 2004. 2007 saw a powerful jihadist group in North Africa unite under the name of Al Qaeda and the Islamic Maghreb and spread its operations across the region. 2 years later, the Yemeni and Saudi branches merged to form Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Since then, the terror networks been gaining ground, with new cells emerging in the region as the Arab Spring unfolded, including some powerful groups waging a war against President Assad in Syria. RT's Gayane Chichakyan investigates.
U.S. intelligence officials, speaking anonymously, of course, say they're now concerned that al-Qaeda-affiliated groups in Syria are shifting some of their focus from toppling Bashar Assad to launching external operations against the West. One U.S. lawmaker pointed out that's exactly what happened in Afghanistan, which led to 9/11. They're now focused on fighting Assad, but very soon they'll be focused on something else. We have Michael Maloof here, former Pentagon official, with me. Mr. Maloof, where are these al-Qaeda-affiliated groups headed, in your opinion?
The Al Qaeda, through Al Nusra forces that are there, are now attempting to look at Syria in the long term to be under a caliphate. And from there, they'll spring throughout the entire region. When you look at a map, that whole area stringing from the Arabian Peninsula to all the way across North Africa and into the Maghreb puts you right smack dab at the foot of Southern Europe. And that is Zawahiri's strategy, is to ultimately move al-Qaeda into Europe.
According to various estimates, more than 10,000 committed al-Qaeda members are operating just along Syria's eastern border with Iraq. It's reported to be more than the number of jihadists in Iraq during the U.S.-led occupation. Worth mentioning, it was the U.S. invasion that brought terror into Iraq. This graph from the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism shows the spike of terrorist attacks in Iraq following the U.S. invasion. The U.S. now shrugs at all this terror that Iraq has to deal with every day, calling it, well, pains of democracy. Libya, similar attitude. The U.S. helped kill Gaddafi. Now the country is engulfed in chaos and terror. Again, you hear pains of democracy. But as these extremist groups in different countries become more and more organized as a network, it's difficult to ignore the monster that's spreading through the region. The U.S. thinks drones are the perfect tool to deal with terrorists. They say drones are the solution. But on the receiving end, those drone strikes are seen as acts of terror when they kill innocent people, and they help terrorists recruit more terrorists. Most recently, 2 reports came out by Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. They looked into U.S. strikes in Pakistan and Yemen. Human Rights Watch found that in the strikes that they have investigated, 70% of those who died were civilians. Washington says they've decimated al-Qaeda's leadership, but it seems al-Qaeda has metastasized and continues spreading with drone strikes and brewing civil wars. In Washington, I'm Gayane Chichakyan.
George Kenney, who's a former diplomat in the U.S. Foreign Service, says there are inconsistencies in the decisions made by policymakers in Washington.
We should reasonably assume that within the U.S. government, they have exactly the same data. They know that the more that we attack terrorists the way that we're doing, the more terrorism appears. And so then the question is, well, if we're creating more terrorists through our anti-terrorism activities, why are we doing it? There's no sensible strategy. There's no consistent logical strategy behind U.S. actions. We're taking things one piece at a time. So here we support one group, there we suppress the same group. You know, here we talk about terrorists, and there we support terrorists in Syria. There's no real consistency, and that shows that's very strong proof that there's no thought behind what we're doing.